Hello. So today I wanted to talk about the skill here, Scorching Ray. Why? Because I saw it on Mathels. Mathification. He did a video about it, and he's a really great builder guy, and he's a lot quicker than me. So even though I kind of thought about this build maybe doing it a while ago, I wasn't able to turn it out. I just basically started doing it because I've been going through other builds. In fact, Mathel seems to pick up a lot of builds that I thought of. I don't mention them anywhere, so it's not like I'm like claiming anything to them. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that it's just kind of like, oh, we're similar thinking sometimes. Anyway, so but he does do kind of like lesser, not known, but like he does builds that are kind of off the cuff. Sometimes he'll do ones that are like in Streamline, or sometimes you'll accidentally find something that's really broken. But he'll oftentimes do things that are kind of out of whack and out of the thing. Zizaran, I think, does more kind of like in line with what people are wanting to do, or things like that. Anyways, this skill though, Scorching Ray, I think needs a look over, especially by GGG, especially in the current patches and times, because it's not. Its biggest issue here is that it doesn't hit, I think. There's a lot of effects missing from the game that you can do to it because it's missing hit. It's basically the Scorching Ray does pure burn damage. If you don't know what burn damage is the type of damage that when you ignite someone, they start taking burn damage. So this skill does pure burn damage. However, it cannot, because it doesn't hit, it cannot crit. It doesn't deal, it deals fire damage, so you can deal extra damage with fire damage, but you cannot increase its hit value, and you can't like put on another ignite on top of it. Or you can't do harder, so it's not like you can do initial hit, bunch of damage, and then have a dot on there like you can with other fire skills. This one in particular, you can, it just, whatever it does, it does. It does have some effects on it, like exposure after it gets up to, additional debuff stages add the 6% damage, more damage, which is good. So basically, the longer they take it, the higher damage it does, and then the fire exposure makes it to where it takes just minus resistances. So really, the only way to increase damage for Scorching Ray is through just raw damage or casting speed, to basically go zero to, to zero out your mana as fast as you can. There's nothing you can do. You can't do any additive damages. If you check the wiki, because it doesn't hit, there's no added damage effect. You can't crit because it doesn't hit. So realistically, I think the biggest problem with it is that it doesn't hit at all. If it were to hit, you might need some minor stuff, and it was damaged pretty hard in this last patch because they reduced a lot of more multipliers on things. So skills that would, like, for example, controlled destruction would usually go up to 44% more multiplier. Also, controlled destruction used to, instead of having the 80% less, basically if you have a 100% chance to crit, 80% less is you're down to 20. Whereas before it used to say reduced by 100%, and what that reduced is a lesser version of less. It's basically saying minus 5%. Usually if you had like 60, it would go down to 55. Because it would reduce like 100% your base, I think. Or it would, if you had, like in your tree, if you had 100% additive total, just take away 100% of it. That's how you can look at it too. A lot of times it ended up being like 5% reduction. So it was a thing that a lot of times you could still crit with it and use it. Perfect for Scorched, or Scorching Ray though, because you never crit. Stuff like Elemental Focus is really good for this build as well, because Elemental Focus just basically makes it to where you do a bunch of raw. You can't inflict ailments with your elements when you have Elemental Focus on. Which is fine because Elemental Focus, because this one can't. It is the ailment. You're just inflicting the ailment damage itself. That said, I don't think it interacts with ailment increases at all. So, other than increasing ignite damage, or increasing burn damage, or increasing fire damage, or spell damage. So it still has effects you can do with it. However, what I thought Mathel might do, and I thought was kind of a cool idea because he's done some, because he does these effects, and I was a little bit disappointed when he didn't do it, is a strength stacking, because I don't see people use it much, but there's an Iron Will support in the game, which strength damage bonus applies to spell damage, to all spell damage as well for supported skills. And then it has a base increased spell damage. So that means strength, I believe I explained it in my first thing, is per 5 strength you have 1% melee physical damage. Well, that means that damage, 1% for per 5 strength, is also applies to this here spell damage instead. So by having a lot of it, if you had like, say, 2,000 strength, would give quite a large amount of increased spell damage. For a Scorching Ray, that would be really good, but I think that'd be something that'd be really interesting to do, especially if you go with what I plan on doing with it, going into the Chieftain. Why? Because we have Death's Fury, Minakora's Death's Fury, which gives you 10% increased strength. If you combine that with the nodes down here, for this one, this will also increase it by an additional 8%, and you can pick up a little bit of stuff along here for mainly health. And then you will end up having 18% increased strength, and then if you combine on top of that the Zoph's Blood, which I think gives you additional 12%, you would have all of a sudden 30% increased strength. So 1.3 on all your strength. You could easily get up to maybe, I don't know, 2,500? Wouldn't be too hard to do. And you would also be able to get stuff like, or you can do this with a Romerico's Sunlight, which increases damage over time multiplier for fire. Chance to ignite. You can't ignite, but you can do penetration. It's a very useful effect. The other choices, I would go for this one. 7% increased fire resistance. Physical damage is taken as fire damage instead. So because fire damage or physical or fire resistance is so much easier to get, you 15% of your physical damage is automatically taken as fire. Fire you have, so you could have a reduction. Actually, what I think it does is it would apply the it would go through your physical defenses. So let's say if you had the maximum physical defenses of 85, and then you took that physical damage, and then 15% of that physical damage is taken as fire. So check against fire and physical instead. So you take an additional 50% off that already reduced amount, and that determine what you'd take. And then also you can't get ignited. The last effect I would obviously go with is Velka's Storm's Embrace. And if you're using a Warcry, which you can only really use one Warcry to set up, and that would be the Enduring Cry, so you get endurance charges, and also does a big heal up all at once. And then you can easily just make yourself lose it and then gain it all back up really quick. So that way you get that 50% more bonus on top of it. And that's kind of what I think would be a little bit better than what Mathel has set up. And if we take a look, I don't have his build up, but if we look over here, he kind of went for going along this line, using these the Prolonged Pain, which is a 20% more multiplier and this frenzy charging one, and no, I'm not for sure. And this one increases max mana, as well as give you a chance to recover a bunch of mana, and then kill gives you restoration. So I think that this one, the style that I'm going with, my idea is going to be a little bit tougher to start out with, and that may but may scale better towards the end. The one thing I didn't necessarily care for when I was looking at his is that he still had, I mean, because this one you get power charges no matter what. It feels a little bit of waste. Because you can't really benefit from power charges at all, because you can't do crit. His build's a little bit more mixtured than pure Scorching Ray, you know what I mean? He also has a bunch of nodes out in the other section of the tree. I'm going to touch back on what Scorching Ray can't do. You can't really do it Scorching Ray as an Elementalist as much as I would want to be. Because you think, Scorching Ray, Elemental, perfect. But the thing is, if you look at these nodes here, like this one, it has the keyword like hits. Your hits always ignite. Well, you never ignite. You never hit. Or we have, your hits always chill. Again, hit. You can't hit. Exposure, you could do this one. This would, you get an additional 25% off, so you could do that. But this one, if you wanted to get that huge, 30% more multiplier, you have to hit the target. You can't hit it with that. So like the Elementalist tree, which you would think is a natural fit for this. In fact, I was originally planning on doing an Elemental tree, and then I found out, the skill doesn't hit. So you can't do a lot of stuff with it. You could do golems, and you could do like this prismatic shield. Basically, if you wanted to go Elementalist, you go Master Discord, and then you could go golems, and that would be what you would kind of do with it. This is as far as which is a fine setup. It's not really what I want. I was, thinking Elementalist. I want to do these things. Other ones that would work. Thought about it. You could do Fanatis. You could kind of do. I think a Guardian is another one that's done. Like a low life build Guardian kind of thing. Great. And if you wanted to do, there's not much point to go with the Judgment one here. Or Templar. I mean, there's not a lot of point to go Templar actually at all. But you can go our Templar, because for Templars, usually people play a Hierophant, or people play a Justicar, I think it's called. And Hierophant you can get your Arcane Surge going, and some mana reduction going, and that'd be fine. You get power charges, endurance charges. You can't do much of the power charges. You can make it to where it gives you some spell power if you want to go stacking power charges, I guess. But like this, like the effect here of the Justicar, you can take the Angry Epistolants, and you can take your Fanaticism stacks, or Instruments of Zeal, which gives you stacks of Fanaticism if you do, and then you can have a huge more cast speed multiplier, which is great. But you can't get it very reliably. That's the problem. There, I mean, you can get it reliably, but you can't gain more than one charge every second, so your build can't rely upon it to do damage. And again, this one, they just take more damage anyways. I guess you could go ahead and do these things. Could be really a restore bot. But like this effect, like Instrument of Virtue, you would lose that effect basically completely, because you don't get any spell power, or it doesn't hit, so it can't benefit from the Battle Mage effect. So there's not much choice to be in that one. The other choice I think would be good for Scorching Ray, though, would probably be Raider. I think Mathel's trying to do not Raider, because it seems to be the one that like everyone's going with this Raider. But I mean, you can get your frenzy charges, it gives you more damage and more cast speed, and you just buff that all up to, and then you can inflict your exposure with the Avatar Veil. Or you can even just do Onslaught effect, and this would be a really good one. Raider would be really good with it, I think, but I mean, I just don't see the point for a lot of things you could do. Like I said, Raider, Saboteur, or Chieftain. I think the one, or you could do Ascension, obviously. Ascension, or Ascendant. Scion. And then go to Ascendant. I think the best one is probably going to be, a long run, Chieftain. I think that its damage is also going to probably be scale a little bit better, especially if you get a strength stacking one. Its upper limits is a lot higher, maybe, but I don't know for sure. I also noticed things like the Herald of Anger, Herald of Ash, will increase brain damage, but it's not as good, as powerful as the overtime effect from Zealotry, even though if you look at it additively, looks like it is, but when you do it through the POB, the Path of Building, it's not as strong. It doesn't do as much additive damage according to the thing, even though it says it does more burning damage and more spell power, but it's not as strong. Anyways, this is kind of what I talked about it because someone might see his video and be like, oh, I want to do that. And not that anyone's necessarily going to see this one, but there's a lot of restrictions. You can't do anything with hit effects. You can't do anything with crits. So you can only build raw power and cast speed. Anyways, and to fix it, in closing, I would just add hit, maybe. Just hit effects. It doesn't even have to do extra damage. Just make it to where it hits. So you could do more things that... thank you.